Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jose Guzman, New York State licensed real estate agent. And if you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. This week's episode is going to be focusing on the journey for the the New York State licensing exam. So last week we talked about this mysterious gentleman who I ran into. So let's talk about that for a moment. So after I took the exam, scored an 88, should have been a 90, but hey, I'll take that out. But he congratulates me, right? And internally I was like, yeah, thanks. And I was going to keep it at that. But something kept telling me, he's like, no, I should have a conversation with this gentleman. So I said, hey, thank you. I was like, what are you here for? I was like, are you taking the exam as well? And again, it's a testing site. There's a library. So at the end of the day, you can go in there for anything. He's like, oh, no, I already passed a long time ago, et cetera, et cetera. So he gives me his information. Turns out that he's a real estate agent as well. And he's part of Real Broker. So I was like, oh, that's great. Never heard of Real Broker. I personally was going to go different directions. Your traditional, I think they call it brick and mortar, or it's definitely not called brick and mortar. I think it's brick and mortar offices. And that's not how you say it. Y'all can just have a good laugh afterwards. But anyway, so I already had everything planned. I already did my research for where I was going to go. And I never heard of Real Broker, right? Long story short, cloud-based brokerage. I ended up doing my research, fell in love with it, honestly. But anyway, he wasn't there to recruit me. He was just giving me some good piece of advice. He said, listen, don't worry about brokerages for now. Focus on your state exam. He's like, if you take your exam today, which I did, he's like, and you book it for Monday, and FYI, I take it on July 10th, so I was a Friday. He's like, if you book it for Monday, every waking moment, just study. He's like, I consume an infinite amount of content, YouTube videos, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. The piece of advice that helped me a lot was the fact that he stated, don't fixate so much on the math. And that was a massive weight off of my shoulders because I was getting ready to just lock in and just memorize every math formula until I could recite it in my dreams. So he said that a lot of the stuff that's going to be on the New York State licensing exam is really going to be fixated more on fair housing laws and discrimination and things of that nature. So that was a big help. So fast forward, I go home. I actually listened to this piece of advice on the first one that I got from a young lady 2 years ago that told me to just get the course out the way. We got the little puppy in the background. Hopefully it doesn't override my voice. But anyway, so fast forward, I come home. I booked the exam. Unfortunately, by the way, planned accordingly. They only have a certain amount of exam dates available. I was actually very surprised. I thought it was going to be something they had available every single day, 24/7. No. Booked the exam. I went through New York State, found the dates, found the testing centers, and I just chose the closest one, which, spoiler, a decent amount of them were pretty far. So I used PrepAgent. That's what I ended up practicing with. Came home, booked the appointment, and then I started studying. Now, I already knew the content. 2 years in, I didn't need to watch any videos. So what I ended up doing was, within PrepAgent, I had purchased something called PrepAgent. Now, my PrepAgent, I think, was live for 3 months. I activated it way too soon. So in reality, I only had it for 2 weeks. So it was July 10th. It was set to expire July 26th. So I'm like, I have to pass this. I can't afford to fail. So I used PrepAgent and I practice every single day. Now, folks, last week's episode wasn't me bragging. It was just being honest, being human first, agent second, right? What did I say last week? I said I scored 80, I was scoring 97s. I was really riding a high. Folks, let me tell you something. PrepAgent was the most humbling experience I've ever had in my life. I took the exam, the practice exams. I scored a 60. I consistently scored a 60. I took this exam multiple times a day, and I just need a win. I could not get past that hump. For me, what the issues were, I think that part of me started memorizing the answers for Aceable Agent. And for PrepAgent, the wording was a lot different. And this is where my advice from last week was come into fruition, right? Stick to a specific resource, because what you end up finding is that the wordings are very confusing. And that's what happened here. So folks, I'm not gonna lie to you. Up until July 19th, I kept failing every single exam. And it was just destroying me. I'm like, do I even pop out to this exam? What do I even do? Whatever. I trusted the process. So every day, I'm not going to go over my schedule again. You guys already know it. Just whatever I was using before for prep work, like for Aceable Agent, I just flipped it into practice exams and flashcards. So I stopped fixating so much on the math formulas. I went through all 300 flashcards, made a list of everything that I knew, things that I didn't know, and then things that I actually was warm about. Fast forward, that was my process. The day of, I think that week or the day before, I'm doing my Bible readings, and the theme was, I think it was eat and rest, right? And the importance of resting. So the day before, I took the exam just one time, scored a 82, I think it was. Closed the book, closed my tablet, and I went and I enjoyed myself. I went with my family. We went to the pool, just baked out in the sun, and just had a good time. Came back, we made some burgers, and it was just a relaxing moment, right? And I realized at that moment that training is crucial, but you can't beat yourself up. Take the time to rest, take the time to eat. And sure enough, went into the exam and I took the exam. Now, you don't get your results the same day, okay? So you do have to wait. Now, when I went in there, one thing, somebody told me to bring a pencil. I brought a pencil. I didn't realize it was actually a written old school Scantron test. So just keep that in mind. Bring yourself a sharpener, pencils, and a non-graphing calculator, like the basic calculators that you can possibly bring. And that's it. You can't write any exams. And the project does tell you, it says it's going to take about maybe 3 to 6 weeks because it was summertime. So needless to say, I started this channel before that because I was anticipating 6 weeks of content, right? 6 weeks of just waiting. That's pretty much it. I didn't get my results that day. I eventually got it. Funny enough, I got it a week afterwards, a week and a half after. So it wasn't as dramatic. I was taken back. Oh, by the way, it's just pass or failed, nothing else. But it was easy. I flew through that exam and I was like, this is way too easy. But I trusted the process and I leaned into it. There was only 5 math questions, if that. And they were basic, commission splits and things like that. So that is it. That concludes today's video. Next week's episode, we're going to start picking up the pace a bit. So next week's episode is going to be a little bit longer. Next week's episode is going to be me talking about what I was doing in this waiting period. Because again, I was anticipating 6 weeks. So we'll talk about everything that I ended up doing there, all the business decisions and the behind the scenes, which I think will be pretty interesting. Now, I will give you a disclaimer. I think next week is going to be the final episode for my real estate journey. And then we will transition to a new segment called Come Explore With Me. Still working out the kinks on a name, maybe something a little bit more catchy. But what that's going to look like is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to explore specific neighborhoods in the area. And we'll see what there is to do. Right now that I'm a licensed real estate agent, if you're looking to move up here, you're probably wondering and asking yourself, what the heck is there to do in the Hudson Valley? And honestly, I think at this point in time, especially around fall, there's a lot of good things that we can capitalize on. So we'll do an explore segment with me, and then we will do another segment. We'll have 2 different segments happening. So not next week, but the week after that would be Come Explore With Me. And then we will hop between the 2. We'll go ahead and explore certain neighborhoods, some nice mom and pop shops, just things to do, right? So that way you're not moving in here and just wondering what the heck do I do in the middle of nowhere? So that's be fun. And then the weeks following that, we'll go ahead and do a different segment where I'll educate you folks on what my research concludes in terms of the market, neighborhoods, school districts, and all that fun stuff. So I'll give you some quick tidbits. There'll be a lot shorter episodes, maybe anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes, but it's going to be the whole concepts. And then our final segments, and again, they're going to be rotating throughout. So I'll have separate playlists. So if you're interested in one but not the other, you can just see it. But then the last thing is going to be Come Learn With Me. So with me being a new real estate agent, there's going to be a lot that we're going to learn. And honestly, even if I was a vet and I've been doing this for 40 years, there's always going to be something to learn. That's just, first of all, that's who I am. And that's just what the business is, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll take a complex topic and we'll try to condense it, and I will just explain it, right? We'll learn something together, right? So whether it be contract laws, scratch that, I'm not a lawyer. So for example, if it's buyer agreements or whatever the case is. We'll go ahead and we'll have a good time. If you stood this long, thank you so much, folks. As always, stay safe, stay great, and I look forward to seeing you next week for the exciting episodes.